Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, joined by Zane Simon, following UFC Fight Night 68, Boetsch versus Henderson. One of the best fight nights I can recall. Knockout after knockout, threw in a little submission for some fun. If there's a stinker on the card, it's way, way, way down low. Great fight card. Zane, what do you think?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was amazing. I mean, and the best part about it, the absolute
And
best.
Henderson knocking Tim Boetsch fuck out. That was the best part of it. But you
Yeah,
tell
well, I was going to say the fact that they actually got the thing in on time and didn't run it, they didn't pad out the fights with a whole bunch of random commercials and cuts back to the desk and all that shit.
that was very merciful. And I mean, it's 11:34 p.m. Central Time, 12:30 East Coast time, and the fights, like, one fight went to the third round. Every other fight on the main card was over in the first round. Had one 28-second fight, one 21-second fight on the prelims. Had a 48-second fight. So yeah, I mean, somewhere there's a Fox exec going, "Oh, we could have squeezed him for more ad dollars," but everybody else is happy.
Yeah, it was a fantastic night. I mean, it's exactly what you want to see out of the UFC, especially on a night where, this is one of those cards where it was going to be you're either you either have nothing to do on a Saturday night or you're probably not watching this card. So those are the kind of cards you want to be awesome.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because really, the sports story tonight was a Triple Crown winner. Nobody cared
Hmm.
about the UFC, but those who stuck with it, those who just tuned in randomly, really got a treat. I mean, Tim Boetsch made the mistake of trying to brawl with Dan Henderson. He's just not a man you charge at throwing punches.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I knew this that I as much as I was almost absolutely sure Henderson was going to be shot or
Me
just going
too.
to
Me
go
too. No
down.
doubt.
I was, I'm totally shocked by that. I did know that they both wanted the fight in the exact same place to try and win it, and that would make things dangerous for Tim Boetsch. Like he was going to give Dan Henderson the fight he wanted because the only way Tim Boetsch wins is when he's in the pocket, dirty boxing, and trying to land shots right face to face with somebody, and that's exactly where Dan Henderson wants to be, and it's really like the place that he's still a dangerous fighter right now is when he can actually get a hand on you and throw it,
And
throw a
throw the
punch.
other one right at your head. Yeah, and I think I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to play Saturday night post fight quarterback, but it's like Vitor Belfort and the other guys who blitzed Henderson lately, let Henderson come to them and did some counter striking. Boetsch could have done that because Henderson's coming forward. You know what Henderson's going to do.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's just
but
not who Boach is. Like he's not a
no,
counterpuncher, and he's never
no,
gonna be a counterpuncher.
no. And I think there's probably not a planet or an alternate universe or a time spatial dimension where Tim Boetsch is ever going to beat Dan Henderson. Uh, it just doesn't have the jaw. It doesn't have the counter punching skills, the technique, the range fighting to capitalize on Henderson's weaknesses. And if you can't take, I mean, I don't know what kind of chin you'd have to take the beating that Henderson laid on Tim Boetsch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought before this fight that Tim Boach would absolutely slaughter him, and it wasn't even a close fight. So what can you say? Like, I mean, Henderson totally
Hats
blew
off
him
to
out of
Dan
the
Henderson.
water.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, hats off to Dan Henderson. I mean,
yep.
we've all been writing him off, and I was very sad going into this fight because I just hated to see Dan Henderson get knocked out over and over again, which is what we've seen the last 2 years. And, he got one more night of glory. And I don't know, it's almost like encouraging, it's like seeing a gambling addict win a big jackpot or something. Now it's just, you almost expect to see that Dan Henderson signs another new contract with the UFC or something. But hats off to him tonight. It was a great victory, great fight card. I mean, let's run through it. Ben Rothwell, Matt Mitrione, pretty good brawl, but Rothwell just capitalized on a Mitrione mistake, got the guillotine choke, boom, it's over.
Well, there's a reason they call him Meathead. Like you could not do anything dumber right there than just decide to try and charge in on Rothwell and shoot way outside where everybody could see the takedown coming. It was just I
And
don't
just
like, and then
left his neck hanging
he
low.
panic tapped. Like I'm sure it was bad. I'm sure it was tight as hell. Rothwell's a big dude. He could put a lot of squeeze on there, but that was like purely like, oh shit, what am I doing? Tap 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 tap. Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just done. What do you like? What can you say about that? That's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean that's the limitations of Matt Mitrione. He's definitely the better natural athlete than Ben Rothwell. Probably the better polished striker. Definitely doesn't have the submission game of Ben Rothwell, but it's not one of these fights where Mitrione went in with a big wrestling disadvantage. It was his
Mm-mm.
fight to win, I think, and because I think Rothwell's only advantage was some submission skills and maybe just sheer raw strength. But even there, I'm not sure he's stronger than
Rothwell's
Mitrione.
big advantage, and the reason that he's going to keep winning at heavyweight is just that he's tough as shit. Like, he is 100 times more durable than every other heavyweight in that division. And when you're that tough, like, you're just going to win fights, especially in a division where everybody seems to have a puncher's chance.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Yeah, very true. I mean, I remember the beating that Cain Velasquez put on him, and Rothwell, just took it and took it and kept taking it. It was amazing. But does this make Rothwell a potential title contender? I mean, he came into the fight ranked what, 9 or yeah, Mitrione was 13.
I don't know. It doesn't like it. Heavyweight is so weird. I mean, we're talking about Andrei Arlovsky as a potential title contender. Ben Rothwell could be a title contender 5 years from now. Like, we don't seriously.
One hopes not, but yeah, it's entirely possible. Um, uh, Arlovsky, Rothwell, there could be a rematch there. They've fought before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they fought before. Arlovsky is one of the few people to have knocked Rothwell out, but
Yes, yes.
it's just I don't know. Like that division, Matt Mitrione winning would have helped make some bit of sense in that division as like a powerful, technical, athletic heavyweight on the rise who's slowly been improving his game over time. Rothwell beating him like that just throws everything back into chaos. It's just I don't know. Everybody can beat everybody. There's no win. There's no like clear better fighters or worse fighters or
No sanity, no order. It's just a mess. It's just
yeah.
a pickup game. And then next week we've got the heavyweight unification bout between Cain Velasquez and interim champ Fabricio Verdum. And again, Verdum if anybody's going to beat Cain Velasquez, I think Verdum has as the best chance of anybody active in the heavyweight division right now. And then there's also the question of how recovered is Cain from his various surgeries and injuries. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see Rothwell beating either of those guys ever, though.
No, but yeah, that's just what I don't know. Like heavyweight's such a there's basically Cain Velasquez, and then there are questions about Cain Velasquez depending on how healed up he is. That's the division right now.
Yeah,
And maybe
you might
Miocic,
be underselling Verdum, I think.
maybe, but I mean, like Verdum's been around for like 15 years too. Like
Yeah, but he's improving. He's improved his game considerably, his striking game and his wrestling game. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll
I
see.
don't know.
Let's get back to this
I
fight card.
think that if Cain Velasquez was, if we were talking about the Cain Velasquez who demolished JDS the second time around, I don't think this version of Verdum would stand a chance. But I don't know if we're talking about that dude.
Yeah, entirely possible. But then we had a catchweight fight with Dustin Poirier and Yancy Medeiros. Medeiros missed weight, came in way heavy, 159.5. Poirier blasted him. You would never know this was the smaller fighter, the former featherweight. This guy is a natural lightweight.
Yeah, he is, and I mean that was kind of like that fight was almost like a mirror image of the Boetsch Henderson fight, in that Medeiros he fights the exact same game as Poirier. So he had to go out there and beat Poirier at his own game. And Poirier is a much more accurate, much higher volume striker who's just a much better fighter at this stage in his career. And when you're going to go out and fight somebody who has more experience and is better than you are at their own game, then
That's a bad spot to be in. And I think Poirier's considerably quicker too.
yeah.
But Medeiros showed a hell of a chin. I mean, the fact that lasted as long as it did, I think a lot of guys would have been out after the early blitz. Of course, Poirier kind of let him recover, going for the rear naked choke there for a minute or two. But still, a great performance from Poirier. Where do you see Poirier in the lightweight division?
Let's see. I'm trying to think who's rounding out the bottom of that. top
You got
15
George
right now.
Masvidal, Beneil Dariush, Iaquinta, Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, Josh Thompson.
I think he can definitely beat one or two of those guys, but I'm not sure. Like, I mean, that division, even at the bottom end of it, you're talking about a bunch of dangerous fighters, and
Yeah, you
you know,
really are. And some of them, like Dariush, is on a hot streak. Iaquinta,
yeah,
too, just, looking really good, really dangerous. Bobby Green stumbling a little bit. George Masvidal, definitely formidable, coming off a bad decision loss where he kind of coasted his way to a loss in a fight he probably could have won. But I'd like to see a Poirier against any of those guys. I think would be a fun fight.
yeah. I mean,
Definitely, I think I definitely think he's a top 15 fighter in that division. It's tough.
yeah, I think he's right there. It's just that, I mean, we aren't seeing a better fighter than what lost to Conor McGregor is, I think, like the thing to be cautious about is like he's a better. I think he is suited for lightweight. That's his natural division, but he's still hittable. I mean, Medeiros still tagged him a few times. He's still
Yeah,
going to take one to give one, and the guys way up at the top are still going to shut him down. But he can certainly compete with the top, top maybe like 7 through 15.
yeah. I can definitely everybody under the Benson Hendersons of the world, and Benson Henderson, of course, is he still talking about welterweight?
He's just moving wherever they're going to pay him. I
Yeah,
think, very smartly just going wherever the money is.
money weight, as King Mo used to say. All right, and that brings us to featherweight. Brian Ortega defeated Thiago Tavares in the only fight of the main card to make it past the first round. Went to the third round before Ortega got a TKO. Ortega converted me. I mean, this is a guy I'm a believer in. I mean, really impressive performance and a brutal loss for Thiago Tavares, who was cut and hurt and just beat down over the course of 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like the classic thing you see, and it's not to be unexpected for a fighter who's aging like Tavares, who's been around since 2003, but it's that Ortega is tough enough and aggressive enough to be in the UFC. Like he's gonna take shots, he can eat shots, he will stay in the fight, he will keep throwing and keep coming after you. He's got good cardio. When you're in shape, when you're aggressive, and when you're tough, like you're gonna be a challenge. And Tavares has never been tough. Like he's always been in shape and he's always been aggressive, but he's always been a fighter that you hit him and he'll get hurt badly. Like,
Yeah. He's hurt. I mean, he's a tough guy, but he's
well,
not.
they're all tough guys, but I mean, tough as in durable. Like he's not
Yeah,
durable. He's never been a durable
not
fighter.
not remarkably durable. No, and Ortega's striking was remarkably improved. I thought not that Thiago Tavares is the world's greatest kickboxer or anything, but Ortega's a guy that came in with a rep as a submission artist, and
Yeah,
I kind of assumed that would put a ceiling on him in the UFC. But as young as he is, and athletic as he is, he's improving dramatically, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him in the featherweight division. Brings us to bantamweights. Anthony Burchak knocked out Joe Soto in the first round. Another really fun fight, just a quick blitz. Thoughts on that, and what does it mean for Burchak in the bantamweight division? Is he?
I mean, he's kind of like Ortega. Not that he's a submission artist, but that he's aggressive, he's tough, and he's got, he's fit. He's going to be in there for 15 minutes, throwing hard at you, coming after you all the time. And Soto's another guy who, like, he's technical. All the parts of his game have fit together really well. He's become a good fighter, but he's also had some questions about his durability over the years, especially like when he got knocked out by Joe Warren. And it hasn't happened often, but like even one of his teammates, I think, was like tweeting about like, oh, Joe Soto's only problem is his chin. And when your teammates are like, the guy's got a bad chin, like that's not a good thing.
No, that puts you in a bad spot, and so yeah, Burchak, he's 29, so he's not as exciting to me as Ortega because of Ortega's youth, but got some upside if you can avoid those heel hooks and submissions, but speaking of upside, bantamweight Francisco Rivera absolutely blasted Alex Caceres, aka Bruce Leroy, 21 seconds. I don't know that says an enormous amount, but it was fun as shit to watch, and I'm looking forward to Francisco's next fight.
Well, I think it says what I hoped it would of Rivera, which is that he's really improving considerably over time to become a much more consistent power puncher. Like he's not just a guy who has a big shot and will, okay, if he hits you with it, you'll go down. But he's a guy who is now fighting consistently as a good technical striker with a lot of power in his hands. Like he's
Yeah.
kind of he's on that Anthony Johnson curve where it's like for a long time he had the power and it was just like, oh, if he hits you, it'll hurt a lot. And then suddenly late in his career was sort of like now things are clicking and he's a dangerous striker with a ton of power and a lot of good technique. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Rivera. His game's getting a lot more polished and Caceres just didn't have a chance at all.
No, it certainly didn't get a chance to show it if he did, and this is a good comeback win for Rivera after the last fight against Uriah Faber, where he was, I thought, winning pretty handily until he got eye poked and quickly choked out. So I'd like to see him get the bonus just because of that bad karma, level that out. And then let's run through the prelims real quick. Sean Jordan knocked out Derek Lewis in amazing fashion. I never thought I would see Sean Jordan land a hook kick and get the finish like that. That was an amazing show of agility from a guy that does not look it does not look possible. The guy's shaped like a bowling ball, essentially.
Well, yeah, but that's like Sean Jordan's entire career has been like the amazing athlete that's shaped like a dumpling. I mean, he's.
But the hook kick is
the hook kick was new, but I mean, Derek Lewis was pulling out some of that stuff too from him, and that was kind of shocking. Like they were both going all wheel kicks and hook kicks, and Jordan was the one who just actually had the ability to throw one that was well timed and land. It was
landed perfectly, and it was it was knee power. It was more the location than the raw power. Because unlike a wheel kick, you're not putting your whole body into it. You're just getting that thrust from your thigh, and just caught him right on the chin. And at first I thought, oh, he just tapped him, and it was one of those heel kicks that didn't land with any power. And then you see the big man just wobbling. Yes. It was like, oh my God, that to me was really where that set the tone for the card, because before that it'd been pretty good, but it went into high gear, straight into amazing right there.
Yeah.
And cleared out some of the bad taste from the previous fight, which saw welterweight Omari Akhmedov, God damn it, Akhmedov, beat Brian Ebersol with Ebersol retired on the stool after the first round, took a vicious kick to the knee, couldn't continue, and announced his retirement after the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he did. Like that, good for Brian Ebersol. I mean, that's not even a case of me not wanting to see him fight anymore, but it's just a case of like, good, get out of the sport, do something else. He's been doing this forever, and
this is a guy who started fighting in February of 2000, so 15 long years, 34 years old, and a lot of miles. I mean, 70 pro fights.
Yeah, and Akhmedov's the kind of athlete, like, maybe he's not the most polished fighter out there, but he was putting some serious punishment on Ebersol all throughout that first round. And it's just like, how many, if a guy who's not that technical is just kind of like a physical freak is doing that to you, how many more times are you going to get out there? I mean, the UFC's full of guys like Omari Akhmedov. It's just full of them.
Yeah, and Ebersol just has lost enough of a step that this is a guy who never was that athletic, who survived and thrived based on his wiles, basically, and it just didn't have the physical resources anymore. So, hats off to Ebersol. He's had some entertaining fights. The infamous owner of the chest harrow, but we'll never see that again. I predict. No, but it's probably for the best. And then the only decision, one of two decisions on the entire card, but the only decision seen on Fox Sports 1 tonight, lightweight Chris Wade beat Christos Giagos in a pretty bloody fight, and a unanimous decision win for Wade.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked like he's improved. He looked like a much technically better fighter. I mean, it's not a great sign that he kind of gassed himself out winning. He basically was doing really well and out wrestling Giagos everywhere and got more and more tired as the fight went on and lost the third because of it. But he was much more technical in his wrestling. Usually when he's faced guys who are a lot better athletes than him, like Giagos, he's struggled a lot. And this time, anytime Giagos spent any time hooked up with him, he was able to really just outwork him and out hustle him all fight. So it was a good improving fight from Wade. It showed that he can get over the kind of guys that have given him trouble in the past.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that it has any significance in the division, but it was a good win for him and a step back for Giagos. Maybe a learning experience, maybe not. But the opening fight, lightweight Joe Proctor and Justin Edwards, I thought this was a heck of a fight. Third round win for Proctor with a late guillotine choke that knocked Edwards out cold. Just as the seconds expired, only 2 seconds left in the entire fight. But I thought it was, it wasn't quite in fifth gear, but both guys were showing some real nice skills. And I thought Edwards was showing some real nice striking. But then Proctor just came out of there at the end and got the finish. Very impressive.
Yeah, I missed the first 2 rounds of this fight, but people seem to be enjoying it when I caught up with it on Twitter. But going in, it was sort of a fight that I'd pegged of like 2 guys who aren't athletically elite, but who are pretty well-rounded and take the fight everywhere. They're decent wrestlers, decent grapplers, decent boxers. And so it should have been a hell of a good scrap. And it seems like, that's kind of how it played out. And Proctor's just a more technical fighter. He's picked up more tools over his career, is more dangerous, and is a great win for him. Great comeback.
Yeah, really impressive. And then the 2 fights on the UFC Fight Pass, you saw middleweight Jake Collier beat Ricardo Abreu with the split decision. Definitely the weakest fight on the card. Any thoughts on that one?
No, just Abreu is not a. He just doesn't have the gas tank, and he's another BJJ guy who doesn't use his jiu-jitsu at all, and that's just infuriating. It's like, if you don't have the ability to get the fight to the ground and you're this world-class jiu-jitsu artist who just goes out and brawls with people, I'm not interested.
Yeah, no, we've been there, done that. And then the opening fight, catchweight because of missed weight. Jose Quinones defeat Leonardo Morales submission in the first round. Not a bad fight. Good performance from Quinones. Thoughts on that one?
Everybody was really excited about and trying to tell me how great Leonardo Morales was. So I get the feeling that not a lot of fans of like developing prospects got what they wanted there. I honestly couldn't care less about it. It just, even for me, it's a fight that you'd see on an RFA undercard. Like,
yeah,
maybe 3 or 4 fights from now, Quinones or Morales or one of those tough Latin American guys will have won enough to be like kind of worth paying attention to. But right now, no.
Yeah, no, it's not quite as bad as Tough China, but it's close. So
I think it's pretty much the same, honestly.
Yeah, quite possibly. So let's get back to the final thoughts on the main event. Anything on the main card?
The main event, the main card was fantastic, and I'm glad for the sake of all the fans out there who really wanted to see Henderson to win. That was like the prevailing thing. You could see where fans just like begging, hoping, and praying that Dan Henderson won. I'm happy he did for them, because
I found myself getting excited, and
yeah.
It's just, there's something about Dan Henderson that just is an incredibly likable guy, and it's hard to put my finger on what that is exactly, because he's mean as hell. And just, and is not somebody he's not merciful. Nope. I don't know of any kindness that he's ever shown. Not that he's unkind, but this is a guy who's known for fucking people up, and people love him, and I love him. And there's, it's like,
it's weird because I have zero love or interest in Dan Henderson outside of the cage. Like he's
not particularly well spoken. He's, I don't know anything remarkable. The only things I've heard about his personal life were not flattering. TRT user, but there's something lovable about that guy, just a magic quality about the way he inflicts violence on other human beings. So,
he hits harder than almost anybody too. Like, very few fighters have ever had that kind of singular weapon.
Yeah, and he's just absolutely tough as leather. It's only been in the last couple of years where he's even really had a chin that you could get. Back in the old days, the guy could just take a beating all day long and keep coming at you. The only weakness he's had in his career, really, well, he's had a number of weaknesses, but the lack of defensive wrestling has always kind of hampered him. But you really can't knock his accomplishments. He's done everything except win a UFC title.
And he's even a UFC tournament champion.
Indeed. Although some would argue Carlos Nunes should have won that decision, but that's gonna have to let that one go. But hats off to Dan Henderson. Great performance. Nice to see him get one more. And just hats off to the UFC. Great night of fights there from the Smoothie Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. The one last final thought I'll say is that when the UFC doesn't have any new fighters on a card, they tend to do a lot better job matching people up. And I think that's really what we saw here, is that there weren't any debuting fighters on this card, I don't think. And I think you're right.
When you get that, they do a much better job figuring out who should be fighting who when Shelby and Silva have seen him a few times.
Yeah, definitely hats off to the matchmakers tonight, because it was just an incredible night of fights. And not much else to say except give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube, read us at BloodyElbow.com, follow us on Twitter at KidNate, at TheZaneSimon, and adios MMA aficionados. Thanks, Zane.